Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that just released on Netflix. And this is from director David Blue Garcia and is from creators Fede Alvarez and Rodo Seguez, and both of them have done a lot of work together. Fede Alvarez has done some really impressive filmmaking, and you have this film, it's a legacy sequel. Basically, it's doing what 2018 Halloween did, get rid of all the other sequels and just make a direct sequel to the original film, because why not? Honestly, that's kind of what it's like. I felt like they're like, oh, Halloween could do it, we can do it too. Except here's the thing, Halloween did it a lot better, because this film, first off, as a legacy sequel, feels like it fails horribly. And we'll get to that, because how they try to loop this in doesn't work. But you have this story, this idea of a group of young people, two ambitious young people coming into Harlow, Texas, this run-down old town, trying to auction off all the properties that have been abandoned so that they could gentrify and make this a nice new town for a bunch of hipsters. Because of course, and they run into this orphanage where this old woman and this mountainous man are living, and things go awry, and you know, that mountainous man is not going to be too happy with how things go, and then you get gore, slashing, and just insane brutality through the rest of this film. And you have David Blue Garcia, who directs this film, and in terms of this how this film all comes together, it just doesn't feel like it's hitting certain notes that like a really good horror film needs to actually capture tension and suspense. And you have Leatherface, who is intimidating. He is a grotesque and intimidating figure in this film, and you're just like, okay, that's working, obviously, and just, you know, human skin mask and all that fun stuff. And you have that working. You have Elsie Fisher, who plays Leela, who's the younger sister of one of these two entrepreneurs coming into this town, and she's the only one who gets any kind of depth added to her, and it's just like, hey, she had a tragic backstory where she can't touch guns because of violence around her and stuff like that. And I think Elsie Fisher does a fine job in this film. And the rest of the cast doesn't get to do a whole lot except for scream and look afraid and, you know, get chopped to bits. And that's the thing about this film, and like, it has a social commentary about gentrification and stuff like that that feels so half-assed that it's not really even worth trying to consider and think about. It's just kind of like a plot device and just kind of leaves it there. But how this all sets up and how they handle this older woman is so unsympathetic that you're just kind of like, I would be pissed too. So, like, obviously I wouldn't go to the lengths that Leatherface goes in Retribution in this film, but like, he's not wrong in terms of being upset about what happened, because these young people are kind of assholes. And you're kind of like, why do I want to root for them then? And you have an unbelievable amount of gore in this film, and this is where things are going to diverge here. Because if you think that like an infinite amount of gore in a movie means horror, then you'll probably get a lot out of this film. If you just see that as grotesque, shock value things thrown in there, and not what really makes something terrifying or horrifying, then you're going to be sitting here watching this movie and feeling a complete lack of tension and suspense throughout the film, because I don't feel like they set things up in a way that's really building great tension. It's a lot of cliches and just trying to lean on, oh my god, if this woman gets chopped in half, that's horrifying, right? And I think this is why it's like, I hate the Saw franchise. And like, I remember watching the first Saw movie and just thinking that it's like, this is just grotesque and disturbing, hostile, and like Rob Zombie movies, I just feel like they miss what say the original Halloween did, which was subtlety and actual building terror. And even like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I haven't seen the whole film, but one of the most iconic deaths doesn't happen on screen. You have to imagine what the hell's going on, and that's so much more terrifying than like and just blood shooting everywhere. And that's this movie in a nutshell. It's just a brisk film. This is only like 82 minutes or 83 minutes or something like that. So like at least it's that. It doesn't like draw well, we'll get to that. But you also have the third act of the film, and you have this legacy character, the survivor from the first film, who's completely mishandled and just so trying to be like Deus Ex Machina and just doesn't work. It's just she's just no setup. It's just like, here's this woman, she shows up and barely does anything, and like they're trying to do what Halloween did, but like you see Laurie Strode from the beginning and you actually see her as a character instead of just like, look, she's tough. That's it. That's all the character you need. You don't need to understand her at all. And this third act, the characters, I feel like progressively get dumber, make some of the dumbest decisions I've seen in a horror movie. And that's saying something. And just leans into a bunch of cliches and just trying to do shock for shock value. And trying to leave you feeling like, oh my god, I'm shocked! And nothing else. Gory and shocked. That's what this movie's going for, and there's nothing much else it achieves. And not even in like a really good way either. At least it's brisk, it's to the point, but I just feel like this movie is so underwritten and underdeveloped that it just throws these things together and just hopes that you look at this and see all this gore happening, and that's terrifying to you. Which, any normal human being, it is. But the thing is, not for the right reasons. There isn't, like, crafting going into how terrifying this is. There's not a building of suspense. It's just, well, humans will find this terrifying and grotesque, so let's just keep throwing as much of it as possible at them. They'll get terrified eventually. And that's this film in a nutshell. And I don't think I would recommend this. Just kind of a big disappointment. But those are my thoughts on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let me know what you think and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.